Some of the best ways to learn are through making mistakes, but we don't always want to learn the hard way. That's where testing comes into the strategy. Our sales connections expert, Shari Pash, joins us to talk about testing the waters. Welcome back to the show, Shari.
Hey, thanks, Julie. It's always good to be back. And I'm excited to talk about test the waters. It sounds kind of intriguing, doesn't it?
It does, especially because we just came out of a segment where our marketing panel was sharing all of the things that they've done wrong in marketing and, of course, how to correct those. But we'd also ultimately like to avoid making big blunders. So when you talk about testing the waters, what do you mean by that?
You know, in sales, we're always presenting, we're always sharing solutions, right? So when I say test the waters, it kind of means that we need to check every so often to make sure what we're sharing and what we think are solutions to our client or customer or member, that it's relevant to them, right? We can just be going along and we're nodding and they're nodding and everybody's happy, but we're not being relevant at all. So we have to test that water to make sure that we're being relevant. That's what I mean by that.
Right. So are you even providing a solution to their problem, right? For one instance?
Exactly, right? So testing the waters is really kind of one step in your sales process, but you know, it's one, Julie, I have found through the teams I've worked with, my clients now, it's one step we often forget. We're just worried about learning what's important, finding a solution, trying to get to the close, and we've got to remember to slow it down and let's, put the pause on and test our information to make sure it's really being relevant to them. So yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about that process, Shari. What's the first thing we
Mhm.
do when we want to test and make sure that we're actually hitting the mark?
Well, one thing I say, the step or two before has to be working, right? We have to make sure that we have used some discovery questions, which I think we covered in an earlier episode. We want to make sure we are finding out what's important to them so that when we offer a solution, it's actually a solution that's relevant to them, right? So now's the time to offer that test question. If you want to give an example of that, we want to make sure to listen for a yes and listen or for a no, right? So an example might be, you might be somebody who offers a leadership program to your clients, or I work with a lot of nonprofits who offer leadership training. So we might have asked that question, how are you developing leaders in your company? That's that inquiry question, right? And, we want to be able to talk about, we offer an 8-week leadership program that allows your employee to grow skills that they can bring back to your office or company. And now here's the question. Would this help with your goal of growing and retaining your leadership team? That's the test water question we want to ask. Does that make sense, Julie?
It does. Okay, so we've asked that kind of testing the waters question.
Yeah.
What if you're told no, but you still know that you offer a good solution? Now what?
That's where I think it goes back to preparing for it, being confident. We talked about that in an earlier session as well. So you don't want that no might be there, but we want to find that solution. And one is practicing that solution as well, right? So when we gain that yes, that's important, but we also want to get those no's out of the way. So when you hear that no, we want to know that we've heard it, because that's the part we can overcome now. If we didn't overcome that no's hanging there. So when you go to close, they're thinking of that no that's in their head. So it's really important that you've discovered what's important to them so you can adjust those solutions. But a lot of it is being confident and being prepared and having these practice sessions. We had an earlier segment on managing objections. So we know that we've got to anticipate what these objections, what these no's might be, and start to overcome them and have it practiced, right?
We have to brace ourselves, that's for sure, because no one likes rejection. So,
Exactly. Let me give you another story example, okay, Julie? How about, say if you're a printing company, for example, and you have a service that you offer delivery and pickup for, right? Maybe you do that as a service you're offering. And think about this for anybody who's watching that can connect to their type of service. But they might say, how much time are you taking out of your week or your staff people to drop off and pick up printing? And that's where you want to say we offer complimentary pickup and delivery. The test question again, Julie, would this time saver allow you or your team to get more done in your day or week? Get the yes, get the no.
So I'm still stuck on that no, Shari. How do we start to condition ourselves for that potential rejection, especially knowing what statistics say that we can expect to get a no 7 or more times before we actually get a yes, and that a no isn't really a no. So how do we condition ourselves to hear that.
That's all right. Exactly. You didn't get a no yet, correct? So it's still, you still have that possibility. And I think it's still, you condition yourself by thinking through and what are all the things that you uncovered already in your process. Now, that's why I say it's a process. We have to have done that discovery process so that you know enough of the yeses that are important to them. So when you get that no, you can minimize it. It might just simply be a misunderstanding, but we know that when that no comes, sometimes it's real and you can't overcome that. So you've got to be prepared that you have done the discovery solid and you have 3 other areas that you know you can get a yes on, 1 other area that you can get a yes on. Because if you don't have any other yes agreement areas, solution solved or problem solved with a solution, that will come into conflict for you to close that business. So for me, it's you've got to do your process. That's what I love about so many of my clients. We work with those tools to create. You have to have a discovery worksheet that has depth to it, that allows you to really dig in to what your client, your member is needing, so that when that no comes, you've got something else you can talk about.
Absolutely. And Shari, I'm sure that worksheet comes in handy because we're not talking just about the sales team either. We think about sales as, if you have sales in your title, but really it's everyone, including front office staff.
That's right, because everyone in your company, everyone in your business, be it 2 people or 20 people or 200 people, are representatives. They're all selling. So you want to create these tools that your receptionist can pick that phone up. He or she can ask a question or 2 so they can also help move people from a no to a yes. So sales is everyone's job, even though if it's not in their title, but it's up to you as the business, the manager, the owner, that you give these tools to your business, to your employees, so everybody can act on your behalf in sales.
Shari, so insightful as always. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us. All right, startup founders, we know that laying out the business, the foundation for the business, is critical before launching and scaling, but that doesn't mean that we always get it right. Today on the show, we talk with an expert who shares with us one mistake that he sees founders make over and over again, something that's easy to fix in the very beginning. That's today on Expert Connections. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. Our guest this week is Reuben Levinsohn. He is the founding partner of Washington Avenue Advisors and Washington Avenue Ventures. Reuben, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julie.
Great to have you here, Reuben. We were just commenting, I think it's been since the pandemic that you've been on the show. So it's been a minute more like 3 or 4 years. So glad to have you.
That's like a lifetime ago now.
So give us first a little snapshot of your businesses and what you do.
Yeah, so Washington Avenue Advisors is our core business. It's a wealth management company, financial planning. My partners and I have together have had that going for about 20 years. And it's our core business that really got us going. But we're all entrepreneurs and we work with a lot of entrepreneurs on the wealth management side and helping them with their business planning. So 5 years ago, we launched a venture studio because a lot of the angel investing that we were doing with local startups, we realized that founders needed a lot more support and resources than just money. And so we've got a team there that works with them and getting their sustainable practices in place to grow their business from. And then last year, to kind of connect the venture studio and the wealth management company, we launched a venture fund. So we've got a seed stage fund that's got a lot of local investors, and we're helping support local entrepreneurship and innovation in the region with that fund.
Reuben, one of the things that I really appreciate about you and your partners is because you're so in tune with the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Michigan, you're constantly working to fill gaps that you see and to help bridge gaps. On this show, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and these are people who are experts in their field. They're maybe creating really cool and innovative new products, founders of awesome startups. But if there's one thing that a lot of these folks have in common, it's perhaps having this kind of private, quiet discomfort with dealing with their finances, whether it's on their personal side. I have folks who are just so busy, working on their business that they're not working on their own personal side of things, or even people who are really good at whatever it is that their business is, but they're not so great with dealing with the financial side. Where would you say some of the biggest gaps are in the personal and financial learnings for founders?
Yeah, we have definitely been noticing that, especially over the last couple of years, working with a lot of these early stage entrepreneurs, and some of them coming through these incubators and accelerators with amazing innovations, but such a like tunnel vision on, I got to raise money, I got to raise money. And then we see them go out and have successful fundraising rounds, or we might be involved in helping them with that through our studio. And then there's some leakage of the finances after that. There's some inefficiencies, and some of it is not, it's just simple things that these young innovators haven't had a chance to get educated and equipped with how to make smart financial decisions for themselves personally, let alone a business that's raising $1 million or more. And it's becoming very significant. Had a talk recently with some people at Techstars, and they said that at their mentor day, the biggest feedback they got, the strong feedback from the mentors, was these founders need financial literacy. They need to understand how to deal with money, the basics, how much to keep liquid, how much runway to have for payroll, and why are you spending so much on marketing if your product isn't ready for that? So there's like a lot of connection points we're seeing gaps in, and really excited to be able to help with that through our financial literacy series.
Yeah, so let's dive into some of the core components of this series, because as you mentioned, a lot of founders really need, it's like a back to the basics almost. You know, in order to be building your business, you have to start by building it with a solid foundation in finances, where, you know, like you said, we're talking cash flow and having runway. So where do you start in your financial literacy series?
So 15 years ago, I actually developed a financial literacy series for young emerging professionals and medical professionals. And we did that for like a decade. It's a lot of the families we work with today came from that program. So we're relaunching that now for founders because of this gap we've been noticing and the feedback we've been getting. And it's a 6-part series, and it'll start with financial foundation, which is very focused on the founder building up just a personal financial foundation, understanding emergency funds and how much to have for short-term needs, understanding catastrophic things that can happen and how to cover for that. And then how much should they, if they have some income, should they be putting away for their future? You know, you can't count on their startup at this stage being their future, although that's the, you know, we want to give them the support for that too. But financial foundation is the first in the series for obvious reasons. And then we go to funding your startup, because that's usually where they're dealing with a lot of decisions they have to make on how big of a round to do, what kind of a round to do, should they raise money, is it time to raise money? So we've covered a lot of that in the next workshop. And then there's risk management, because we feel that nobody's hitting that. Nobody's talking to them about the risks that exist once you have taken money from investors, or you've got revenue, or they've got a salary. Things such as, you know, health insurance and disability insurance. What if they get hurt? What if they get sick? What if they have a claim against their board and they don't have directors and officers insurance? So that's in our third in the series, is all the risks they need to learn about. We'll probably be bringing other experts in, like, because we don't cover all these, but like directors and officers insurance, very important. And we'll probably bring someone in to talk about that. The fourth in this series is going to be investment and tax management, because it's some basic things that we found they don't have a lot of training on unless they were a finance major, which not very many of them are. They just need some basic understanding of investments and tax sensitive strategies for themselves and their business. So many things they can use their business to their favor there, with retirement planning and tax deferral, and ways to help their key people with options and retirement accounts. And then the fifth will be building a sustainable team. So leading a sustainable team, and we're going to pair that up with some leadership development for them, because that's, again, for younger founders and innovators, they just haven't had a chance to really develop themselves as leaders yet. And then we'll also be adding, and the sixth in the series will be exit readiness. Really, are they prepared to think about an exit? Because these businesses are clearly built for being acquired within 5 to 10 years, and we want to help them prepare for that sort of an exit.
And certainly building with that exit strategy in mind is something that I know you and I talk about a lot. So it sounds like those 6 pillars, those 6 different topics that you focus on in the series, each one is huge in and of itself, but then combined really give that full foundation as founders are working on their business plans. It's so interesting, Reuben, because, I think back as the owner of a marketing agency and working on an AI company now, I took a total of 0 business classes in college. And
Right.
I definitely took a total of 0 financial classes. So even reading, a P&L statement was brand new to me. And I think that there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are, obviously it's been a few years since then, I can do all of that now. But it's almost surprising sometimes that most people who go into business don't do it just because they've taken business classes and now they want to build a business. It's kind of the other way around. So,
oh yeah, especially entrepreneurs, it's always the other way around. They tend to just learn by mistakes. I mean, I've learned by a lot of my own mistakes, but I think with our financial literacy series, we can at least help them or equip them with some basic things to make smarter decisions. And I think they need to do it because they're taking money from investors. They have a responsibility to have more financial literacy than the average person. So that's kind of what I'm going out to accelerators and incubators and saying, you kind of have a responsibility to train them on this stuff if they're taking money from people.
Absolutely. And especially as they're growing teams, I think it's one thing when you're starting out and it's just you and your co-founder or just you, but when you start adding to the team and you want to build something that you can actually, at the end of the day, know that you're able to cover everything that you need to, and you have people counting on you.
Yeah.
So tell me, so for those who are interested in learning more about this series, where can someone go to find more?
Yeah, we're just adding it into our site at Washington Avenue Advisors. So I'd say stay tuned there, and we'll have, right now it's being offered kind of case by case and privately out to incubators and accelerators that want to bring financial literacy to their founders they work with. So we'll do it in groups and classes like that. And I think in the next few months, we'll go ahead and we'll have it recorded and accessible there. We'll have the 6-part series recorded. We'll probably do some live webinars where people can join, and we can answer questions and do the recording there. So still coming out. We're rolling it out. For now, it's just going to be out to incubators and accelerators kind of in a live format.
I love it. So you heard it here first on Expert Connections. This is coming soon. And I know you are, as we speak, you are speaking at Techstars Detroit. So that's awesome. And we'll connect all the links and information, Reuben, so people can follow up with you and connect with you. And I'm sure, we're also co-chairs of Startup Grind Lansing. So let's just go ahead and commit. We'll put it there somewhere. Startup Grind Lansing.
That'd be a great place for us to roll it out as well at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. So just startupgrind.com/Lansing. You can stay in the loop there too. Reuben, thanks for giving us a preview of what this program looks like.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
That's all for this episode of Expert Connections. Make sure and subscribe and jump over to our financial playlist for more from Reuben and other financial experts.